This coming Monday, the College Football National Championship is officially here. The Miami Hurricanes versus the Indiana Hoosiers. Winner takes all. And I think Vegas might be wrong on this one. So, guys, here we are. The game is coming up this coming Monday. I'm sitting here. It's very early Saturday morning. There's only 2 games left over. The national championship is going to be here. This is one of the biggest spreads for a national championship. Basically, nobody. Vegas, the fans, no one's really giving the Miami Hurricanes a chance to pull off the upset. But sometimes that's actually probably where the Hurricanes want to be right now. No one giving them a shot, them being the underdog so far in the playoffs this year. They have actually performed better as the underdogs, but you also have to give credit to Indiana. They have been completely curb stomping, blowing the backs off of every single team that they've been facing for the last couple games now. Definitely during the playoffs, beat the living crap out of Alabama. Alabama, they had no business being in the playoffs. We said when the playoffs started, how did they even sneak in? They snuck in because they were from the SEC, but they definitely got kicked out early on. They beat the Oregon Ducks, a top 6 overall team. They beat them. They beat them pretty bad. Right out the gate, turnover, interception, ran back for a pick 6. This team, one of the largest winning margins over the course of an entire season in the last 2 decades of college football. Who's going to win this game? This is going to be a very hard fought game. The spread makes it look like the Hoosiers are just going to run roughshod over Miami, but we know that when it gets to the playoffs, Miami's been the underdog 2 of 3 games, especially a 10.5 underdog versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. So we really don't care what Vegas has to say. Anything can happen in this game. We're going to be breaking down the national championship, looking at both teams, great teams, well-coached teams, so much talent on both these teams. Looking at Miami, 4 stars, 5 stars. Looking at Indiana, the oldest team in the nation. The average age on the roster, 23 years. These are full-grown men, and they're playing like NFL, a disciplined, good tackling, physical college football game. It's Cristobal versus Signetti. Who's going to be the winner? Who's going to hoist the trophy over? Will it be the Miami Hurricanes coming all the way back from the dead after that bullcrap flag back in 2002? Have they finally reached the top of the mountain? And then you have Indiana. They've never been to the top of the mountain. They've never even had a 10-win season in their entire school's history for over a century till last year. Signetti got them to 11 wins. This season, they're sitting at 15 wins with the shot to be the only 16-0 team in modern college football history. It technically happened in like 1890, but let's be honest, that doesn't really count. Anyways, this is a big game. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? We'll predict that. We'll predict the final score. We'll take a look at the Vegas bets as of right now. The money line, the spread, the over-unders. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment down below. Who do you think is going to win this game? What's your final score prediction? Leave it in the comment section. I do respond to every single comment. If you want to sign up for one of our member teams, check out the pinned comment below, and let's take a look at this game. Miami, Carson Beck comes in, the Georgia starter, the SEC accolades, blah, 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 blah. Bad season last year with Georgia, gets hurt, comes to Miami, slowly getting better every single week. That little 3-game stretch where they lost to Louisville, lost to SMU, actually on our preseason video, believe it or not, we actually had them losing both those games, finishing the season 10-2. But Miami, with him, Carson Beck, they got away from a little bit of that air raid system, started running downhill. It worked wonders from him, working the play action. Fletcher took off. Pringle took off. Lyle took off. That's where this team really flexed their muscle, their size in the trenches. We knew that was going to make a difference in the playoffs. Everyone wanted to talk Big Ten football, SEC football. Look, I don't care what conference you're in. If you're good, and that will show in the product on the field. Mario Cristobal, they succeed at line of scrimmage, trench warfare football. That's what's made this Miami team so good, is just leaning on teams, especially second half. They own the second half. Obviously, almost 40 minutes of time of possession versus Ole Miss. Crazy stuff. And that defense gets after Ruben Bain, Mesidor, both those guys coming off the edge. There is no better pass rush in college football. Secondary has been playing well. Brown's been banged up. Frederic banged up last game. Lucas suspended. That was complete garbage. That was not a targeting either way. And they called it targeting, so he'll have to sit the first half out. But you give Miami credit, you got to give Indiana credit. How about Kurt Signetti? He says it all the time. Google me. All I do is win. That's a famous. If they win, I don't know if there's a more remarkable story beginning to end than Indiana basically coming out. They didn't even come back from the dead. They were never alive. They were completely working the portal. In 2 years, Kurt Signetti's completely flipped his team from a laughing stock, bottle barrel team. They might win the national championship. They're actually favored to win the national championship, both with Vegas and with the fan vote. Fernando Mendoza. Having watched college football for a long time and watching a lot of games, I knew who Fernando Mendoza was from his time at Cal, especially when he had that Cal Miami game last season. They gave him a lot of airtime because he wanted to come to Miami, asked to come to Miami. Miami said no. He was at the Manny Diaz football camp, blah, 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 blah. His father played football with Mario Cristobal in high school. They know each other. When he hit the portal, some people thought Miami was going to go after him. Maybe they thought that it wasn't professional to pursue someone that they know. It's probably not the case because pretty sure Mario Cristobal's nephew is on the team. But no matter what, they didn't go after him. Probably a mistake because he might be the number one overall pick in the NFL. Miami could have had back-to-back number one picks. Cam Ward, Mendoza. That's not the way it worked out. He goes to Indiana. This team's never looked back. He's the Heisman winner. He could go undefeated. He could win the Heisman. He could win the Big Ten. He could win the national championship. For a player. What a remarkable season. But give even more credit to the team because it's not just Mendoza. Yes, he's good. Yes, he's been the most consistent elite quarterback this season in the entire country. But it's the team. It's what Signetti and that coaching staff has done. The offense, the defense. Top five defense, top five offense. They are probably the most complete, well-rounded team in the country. They are head and shoulders the best team in the nation in the 2025 season. But Miami has shown their trek through the playoffs. They don't give a crap. They're going to compete with you at the line of scrimmage, force you into their style of football. But will they be able to do that versus Indiana, who basically turns out the same exact product every single week in and week out? They never have a letdown. Yes, they had that close game for Penn State, but they ended up winning it. They dominated the fourth quarter. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the fans are saying. This is actually pretty lopsided. Indiana, 68.3% chance to win. The Miami Hurricanes, 31.7% chance. So less than a 1/3% of the fans thinking that Miami Hurricanes are going to win. We'd like to call things like they are. The Hurricanes, they're not the most popular team. A lot of people hate Miami. It's on the subconscious level. They say, oh, that's a tough team. It's good. But they actually want to see Miami lose. I don't know what it is about Miami, but there are people that downright hate them. That's why they call themselves the U, because it feels like it's their university against everybody else. But Indiana, they're not a has-been. They're a never were. They are a true Cinderella story. They fought their way back. It shows what the transfer portal has done. It is even college football out. Hoosiers, what a talented team. A lot of people pulling for them, not because they hate Miami, but because it's just such a good story. And maybe Kurt Signetti is the new Nick Saban. I'm not saying Saban is still the GOAT nonetheless, but Signetti's in his mid-60s, so it's not like he's going to be coaching college football for 2 decades, but it's a good story to watch. If you're a college football fan, Miami is a blue blood program. I don't care what anyone else says. When they did a college football top 10 blue bloods, Miami did make the list. Indiana, they're not. So it's just a good story. So not everyone rooting for Indiana is doing so because they don't like Miami. There's a lot of people that do, but a lot of people just want to see the good story. And this would be a really big game for the Big Ten because that'd be 3 straight national championships. The Hoosiers, 7.5-point favorites. It's a pretty big spread for a national championship game. The over-under 48.5. We had Indiana covering the spread versus Oregon. A lot of people, we had Miami covering it also, which they did. But the Hoosiers, people haven't really been watching them. They're not a small team because their fans have been showing up. That stadium, 80-90% red. The Hoosier fan base, they were there in massive support. You have all these famous people coming out of the woodwork now, wanting to donate money, jumping on the bandwagon because it's the cool thing to do. That's a bunch of crap, but still donate the money there. Help the transfer portal out. Miami, 31.6 points a game, throwing for 254.6, running for 154.6. But this ground game in the playoffs has been on another level. Malagoa, Cooper, that offensive line, so talented, so deep, so huge. One of the biggest offensive lines in the country. I said when the playoffs started, Miami has the best offensive line in the nation. I don't care who won the award for top offensive line. That's gibberish. It's the Miami Hurricanes. They're giving up 14 points a game. That's a top 5 defense in the country. They get after it. And how about their performance in the playoffs? 3 to the Aggies, 14 to who a lot of people consider the best team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and 27 this past weekend to Ole Miss after they throttled Georgia. What a performance from that defense getting after it. And that's with all of the penalties, dropped interceptions. They only gave up 27 versus a top 10 offense, the number 2 yardage offense in college football. They give up 206.1 through the air, 86.5 on the ground. Number 5 rush defense in college football. But the Hoosiers, they see you and they'll match you. They come in here 42.6 points a game. That's a top 3 offense in the nation. They have the edge on offense. They're throwing for 242.7. They're running for 218.3. This might be the most complete team and balanced offense in the country. Practically 50-50 split down the middle. They can throw. They can run. They have a quarterback. Mendoza's not a dual threat by any means, but he is a mobile quarterback. What I mean by that, if you flush him out of the pocket, he will take off. He will scramble. He will pick up first downs with his legs. That's going to test the linebackers. And those D's coming off the edge, you got to bottle him up. Keep him in that pocket, and the linebackers got to make sure he can't step up and take off right down the middle, because he will. He's always keeping his eye looking down the field, though. That's one thing that you really have to appreciate about him. What a good team. And they're giving up 11.1 points a game. It's top 3. So Miami, Indiana's defense, Miami's defense, let's just say that they both cancel out. I think Miami has the best defense in the nation this season, but Indiana, them both being top 5 defenses, it cancels out. I don't care who's 1. I don't care who's 5. That's close enough. Indiana gets the edge overall. They have a top 3 offense in the country and a top 3 defense. Crazy stuff. They're giving up 185.9 to there. One of the best secondaries. This might be the best secondary in the country. 75 yards given up on the ground. They swapped with the Red Raiders of who was number 1. This is the number 1 rush defense. Miami number 5, Indiana number 1. I think Miami has the edge rush defense because their defensive line is the best in the country. That front 7 as a core is the best in the nation. Indiana's right with them. There's just a little bit of a size disadvantage. The Hurricanes are the bigger team, the far bigger offensive line. Their offensive line is huge. There's guys 6'8", 6'5", 330 to 370. These are massive bodies. Mass moves, the word that rhymes with that. That's the old adage, and they definitely do that. They will be able to lean on the Indiana defensive front with that offensive line. Indiana, they're not big, but they're quick and they're schemed well. They will get wore out second half. The only thing that they can hope for is their offense controls the first half enough to where Miami just can't lean on that run second half. They got to start airing it out, and that's not where Carson Beck wants to be. He doesn't want to be throwing 40 times for one game because they're trying to play catch-up. Miami wants to control the clock, control time of possession, 7 to 8 minute drives every time they possess the ball, just sucking up quarters, keeping the ball away from that Indiana top 3 offense. Looking at Carson Beck's stats, 3,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 picks. He had what sent them to the national championship, Carson Beck's legs, scrambling and running for the first down. They have Fletcher. They have, Wild just went in the portal. They have Pringle. They have Brown, deep running back room. They got the smash. They got the dash. They have power. They have speed. They have Malachi Toney, the best freshman in the country, 1,100 yards, 99 receptions. Give this man one catch, and he's at 100 receptions for a freshman. That is crazy. They have Marion stepped up big, C.J. Daniels, JoJo Trader, Butterfingers. That's what I like to call them. Hold on to the ball for the love of God, man. You were wide open. There was no one around you for 50 feet. Just hold on to the ball. So much talent there. Get the ball to your playmakers in space, but they got to catch it out. But he has so much promise. Don't want to knock him at all. So many weapons on the team. Looking at Indiana, Fernando Mendoza putting up video game numbers. 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, multiple rushing touchdowns, 3,400 yards. He's efficient. He's accurate. Might be the most accurate quarterback in the nation. I know Sayin technically had the high completion percentage, but we all know what happened to Sayin versus Miami front 7. They have Hemby. 1,100 rush yards. They have Cooper, Surratt. They have size. They can work the slot. They can do a little bit of everything. How do they hold up versus this defensive line, especially with Miami potentially down some of their guys in the secondary? Can that front 7 get enough pressure on Mendoza where he doesn't have time to throw the ball? They do have a very quick release. This is a tough game. When it comes to having to pick it, preseason wise, well, not even preseason, when the college football bracket came out, I did have my video that came out. The team that I picked to win the national championship, even though Vegas was saying it was going to be the Buckeyes, it was going to be the Georgia Bulldogs, I actually picked the Indiana Hoosiers to walk away with the hard fought win, finish the season 16-0, first team to ever do that. I see absolutely zero reason or zero evidence of why I should come off of that pick. The team they are right now, it's the same version as when the season ended, when the Big Ten championship ended. They've probably been the most consistent team the entire year from week one all the way through the Big Ten championship to the first couple rounds of the playoffs. Same performance week in and week out. They look the same as they did when the season started. If anything, they've just slowly been getting better every single week. Mendoza, more touchdowns than incompletions during the playoffs. Hemby, Surratt, Cooper, everyone's playing at a high level. They're disciplined. They know their assignments. They're not the most talented roster on paper, but they might be the most talented team overall because they know what they do well and they work together as an organized team. They keep penalties down. They're physical. They know their assignments. Miami, the far larger team, the far quicker team, but they're less disciplined. They do have one of the better turnover margins, but Carson Beck himself has a lot of interceptions. As a team, I think they only have one or two fumbles the entire season, and they both happen during the playoffs. Outside of that, they're not fumbling. There's no butterfingers here, but Carson Beck, he's making some poor decisions sometimes, but that hasn't reared its head during the playoffs. He's been playing on another level, but not too much has been asked of him. He's playing within the scheme, within the system, be physical, lean on teams, dominate the line of scrimmage, own the trenches, let Fletcher do what he does best. Physical, downhill, running behind that massive offensive line. The average weight's like 330 pounds on the offensive line. They are far bigger than Indiana. I already mentioned, I do not think this Indiana number one rush defense in the country is going to be able to stop Miami from running the ball. No matter who Miami's faced, they played the number one overall defense. The Buckeyes, they ran it down their throat. No one can stop them. The only thing that can stop Miami is themselves. The issue is they've been doing that a lot this year. They're the 105th most penalized team in the country. They get penalized a lot. False starts, holdings, personal fouls. It's nonstop. It's over. When they beat the Buckeyes, zero penalties in that game. They had almost 100 yards in penalties versus Ole Miss. That's the only reason that game was even close. 4 dropped interceptions. They actually beat the crap out of Ole Miss. They had the ball for 41 minutes. They dominated that game in all facets, but they kept penalizing themselves. That actually kept the Rebels in the game. But if Miami plays clean football, they can win this game. They probably would win this game if they play typical Miami football. Indiana beats them, and they might beat them convincingly. That's the unknown. You just don't know which version of Miami is going to show up. That's what makes this game so hard to call, because even though Vegas is saying it should be a curb stomping, common sense, when you break this game down and you analyze it, you don't see that there. Anything can happen in this game because Indiana, the same performance, week in, week out. Miami, they're kind of all over the place, immense talent. But what are they going to do on Monday? Who's going to show up? That's the unknown. Nobody in the world knows that. That's why I don't care what Vegas has to say. I don't care what the percentages have to say, because the unknown there is we don't know which version. You know what version of Indiana is showing up, because it's the same thing every week, no matter who they're playing. They could play Northwestern, and they could play the Buckeyes. You're getting the same thing. Miami, if the SMU Miami shows up, if the Louisville Miami shows up, but if that Buckeyes team shows up, they can beat this game. They beat the Buckeyes worse than the Hoosiers beat the Buckeyes. Hoosiers won that one 13-10, and the Buckeyes missed a field goal at the end of the game, or that's an overtime matchup. Miami, it didn't come down to a field goal. They bludgeoned the Buckeyes 24-14. The Buckeyes hadn't given up 24 the entire season. Miami put it on them. They leaned on that number one defense, but you have to take into account everything that the Hoosiers have going on for them. There's going to be a sea of red there because Indiana fans, they've been traveling this playoffs. They're going to show up. I don't care how much the tickets cost. This team has never been this good. There's a fire lit under them. They're a Cinderella story. People who don't really watch college football, they're rooting for the Hoosiers because it's a good story. And that really does mean something. And then you have all the people, because a lot of people do hate their Hurricanes. A lot of people, they're all rooting for the Hoosiers to bludgeon the Miami Hurricanes. And then you have Miami, they have their fan base pulling for them, wanting to get back to the top of the mountain. They've waited decades, not just your normal team of it's been some time, they haven't been good. Now they're back on top. Miami went through some pretty tough periods. Obviously, the whole thing with the Shapiro thing, they've gone through multiple coaches getting fired over and over and over. They've missed bowl games, they've had to sit out bowl games. But now they're back in it in a year where they were never supposed to be in a national championship, speaking wise. But the Hoosiers, they were never supposed to be in it for their entire school's history for over a century. What's going to happen in this game? It's 60 minutes. Who's going to show up for this 60-minute period and play the best football? I said I had the Hoosiers winning it when we did the bracket when the playoffs started. And I tried to sit there and think about, ways that each team can win this game. Indiana, just do what you've been doing. Everything's within your control. You know what you're getting. It's like death and taxes. Death, taxes, and Kurt Signetti playing extremely disciplined, well-balanced football. With Miami, the keys for them winning it, that's also within their control. Penalties, running downhill, leaning, owning time of possession, 7 to 8 minute possessions every single time you possess the ball, drain the clock, take a half the quarter off every time you have the ball. Can they do that? Now, that's one thing that Indiana can't control, is they can't control Miami beating themselves. Miami can control that. That's kind of an interesting there, because you can sit there and try and talk yourself into ways of how Miami can win this game. You don't have to do that for Indiana. Just do everything you've been doing this season. It would be very shocking to everyone if Indiana came out and just laid an egg. If Mendoza's not accurate, if he's throwing interceptions, what does he have? 6 the entire season? But Miami, that stuff is technically within their control. If they show up disciplined, they're the underdog. When they were 10.5-point underdogs versus the Buckeyes, they took that personal. The Buckeyes were talking trash. Hoosiers, they're not really talking trash. Kurt Signetti loves to run his mouth off. It is good stuff to watch. But these teams respect one another. They respect Mendoza, Signetti, vice versa. It's going both ways. So really no one's saying anything because you don't want to give the other team ammo. But the commentators are saying a lot about the Miami Hurricanes. Do they take that? And is that the drive they need to kind of propel them forward like it did the Buckeyes game when Miami had no business winning that game? It's what makes it so interesting. So all that you need for Indiana to win, play complete football, do what you're doing. All you need for Miami to do, come out, play one game, disciplined, keep the penalties down, be able to run the ball. Carson Beck, don't throw any crazy interceptions. You can talk yourself into any outcome because you can find reasons to justify it. Can Indiana beat Miami? Yes. Can Miami beat the Hoosiers? Yes. Can the best version of Indiana beat Miami? Yeah. Can the best version of Miami beat Indiana? Yes. Who has the higher probability of showing up and playing their best? It is no doubt Indiana. I don't think anyone would even doubt that. Well, when you look over their schedule, some maybe similar line of scrimmage, really disciplined teams, even if the team stunk, just line of scrimmage football teams. Iowa, Penn State, the Buckeyes, they kept Indiana's score pretty low. They slowed them down. They ran the ball. They played old school 1980s smash mouth, grinded out football, even though Indiana ended up beating Iowa, Penn State, the Buckeyes. Miami beat the Buckeyes. Miami's better than Iowa. Miami's better than Penn State. Miami had some close games as well, but you can see how that type of football, with I think Indiana's comfortable playing smash mouth football, but that's Miami's specialty. I don't think anyone does it better than the Hurricanes do it when it comes to just downhill grind out football. Can Miami show up for 60 minutes and play this? Can they show up in the second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, dominate the line of scrimmage? Will that weight difference start to wear down the Hoosiers second half? Miami, they don't have Xavier Lucas first half. That's a massive loss. It was a bullcrap penalty. It is what it is. That pushed him out of that game. But will they be able to make the difference? Will they be able to keep the game close enough when he comes in? Yeah, he's supposed to be playing in this game. You don't have Loft, and that's another massive loss. He has to sit out. Damari Brown might play this game. Game time decision potentially. He hasn't played in almost 2 months. That'd be a massive addition to have him back in that secondary, especially without Lucas. We'll have to wait to see what happens there. You have Mesidor. Mesidor supposedly at full throttle right now. They said he is ready to go. We didn't pick a score prediction earlier when this video came out this week. We said that we were going to wait to see what happens, wait to see what the injuries. We're still waiting on Brown. But I'm going to be picking the winner of this game with a final score. So the team I have that's going to win this game and win the national championship, I have the Miami Hurricanes pulling off the upset win. They win this one 24-20. When this prediction video came out at the beginning of the week, I said I called Indiana to go undefeated the entire season to win the national championship. And I saw no reason to change that. And I see no reason why Indiana can't. Why they shouldn't win the national championship. The most complete team, the most consistent team. They do an A performance every single week. A. Every single week. You know what you're getting with Indiana. Miami can't help what Indiana's going to do. You know what they're going to do. They're going to be able to do what they want to do. It's the same thing every week. You got to love that. Everything sets up perfectly for the Hoosiers to win. But you don't know what Miami's going to do. That is the X factor. Miami, Indiana, the best team in the country, no debate. Miami, the more talented team. Talent doesn't make you the best, though. Talent just means you have a higher ceiling. It doesn't even mean you're going to reach that ceiling. You just have more innate ability of what you can do. Miami's that team. They can go A+. They just don't do it often. They can come in C, A+, B, C, B, C, A, C, A+. You've seen it this season. I already predicted every single game Miami played this season. I don't know what the odds of that were. I had them going 10-2, losing to SMU, losing to Louisville. That's exactly what happened. August 11th, check the video out. We did the entire season prediction of what was going to happen. I picked them because it happens every year with Mario Cristobal. They drop a game, and I picked where they would drop it. That happened. Miami made it into the playoff field. We thought they should have made it in. They had the head-to-head versus Notre Dame. I did think Notre Dame should have also gotten in. I thought they were far better than Bama. Bama should have been left out. Let's call it like it is. But either way, it is what it is. We ended up with the final two teams here. Miami showed they can show up A+. Look at the Ohio State game. 10.5-point underdogs. Far bigger spread than here. Nobody was picking Miami. They didn't belong on the field with the defending national champions. The most talented roster in the country. The number one overall defense in the country. Points per game. Total yards per game. NFL. 5 players off the defense are going to be drafted. Blah, 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 blah. Jeremiah Smith, Tate Ennis, saying all the weapons, the running back room, the lines, the line of scrimmage. Miami bludgeoned them. They bludgeoned them worse than the Hoosiers did. Hoosiers won 13-10. Buckeyes miss a field goal at the end of the game. Indiana won it. Could have been an overtime game. I think no matter what, Indiana wins that game. But Miami didn't leave it that close. Miami beat them 24-14, kicked them out of the playoffs, and they continued to move on. So Miami has showed they can come in. They can come in with that A+ performance. They just don't do it often. That's the X factor. That's what makes it hard to call. And it's not a knock on Indiana. They were my pick. It might sound crazy. When this video came out at the beginning of the week, I said Indiana's going to win it. But I need to analyze the game longer, look at injuries, break everything down. Can you talk yourself into what the outcome is going to be? And that's that X factor. And Miami's the X factor. They could come out and they could give an SMU performance. Hoosiers can win this one 34-17. They could come out pissed off, just like the Buckeyes game. No one's giving them a chance except for their fans and just a couple commentators. and they could have 0 penalties. They could run the ball. They could dominate time of possession. They could give the Buckeyes a physical game, a physicality they had not seen this entire season, and they played Indiana. There's no line of scrimmage team like Miami. Everybody knows it. The offensive line, first round talent. The D line, first round talent. Not having Lucas in the secondary sucks, but Miami can do it. It's just, is A plus showing up or is C showing up? If A Miami shows up, they lose to Indiana because Indiana's just too consistent. They can close it out. You're kind of shooting on that A plus Miami Hurricanes team showing up and ending the Cinderella story. So I'm just going to call it. I'm just going to call it. The Hurricanes win this one 24-20. They get back to the top of the mountain. They win the national championship. Cristobal completes his job. He says he can't live without Miami not getting back to what Miami is. And I got him doing it. Guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below. Who do you think is going to win this game? What's your final score predictions? It's crazy because it's so vast of what the outcomes can be and the spreads. Anyways, if you want to like and subscribe, do so. Thanks for watching.